Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. Is it working? Are we
fine.
good?
I don't know why you'd think that nothing's working. Everything's working fine,
great,
and it's always worked fine. So
everything always works great. Everything always works great. Now we're gaslighting the audience, apparently. Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing happened. We've been here the whole time. I don't know what everyone's talking about. Great. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Big Brother, and I'm glad that everything's hopefully working out well.
It's everything always works. Melissa acting really strange tonight. Also with me today is Brent.
Taran, I am reporting outside the Big Brother house right now. It is a scintillating week in the Big Brother house. It is just amazing. This finale of this season, just like you said, it would be rip-roaring. It would be exciting. And I totally lied to you. It's totally boring right now, people. So yeah, there's nothing going on. What do you want from me?
There you go. There is Brent. We are here live on a Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, as we always are, to argue about what's been happening on the Big Brother 20 live feeds. And Brent is starting early. We are here up on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Hopefully, all of those things, and of course everything is working perfectly, and you can send questions into me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. So there you go. Hopefully that's working.
Yeah. I know. I can hear you people in the chat. Look, we know that me and Melissa are not in sync. We are aware that Taran is in sync. We do not know how to fix the problem. I have brought it to Rob's attention. I now brought it to Taran's attention, and you saw what the solution was.
You saw
on the
what
first
Taran
two
did.
podcasts when all hell broke loose. So Taran doesn't know how to fix it. Stop freaking asking.
I tried to fix the audio sync issue, and something else happened, but we're not gonna pay attention to what happened. So,
And that was worse.
I advise you just to listen to us and ignore the picture.
Or just watch us and ignore what we're saying.
Yeah,
that's
so we'll see how this goes. Here we are. We are talking about this week in Big Brother 20, and as Brent has mentioned, it's been a very not exciting week. The season was really clipping along at a wonderful pace for quite a while, and then just the 1-2 punch of the hacker and the battle back, and we have been stuck in this purgatory for quite a while. However, we are on our way to what should be an exciting double eviction at the very least. So that's something to look forward to. But a recap of the week segment here, not going to be much to talk about.
Yeah, definitely not that much. I've been watching all the morning updates, and it was funny to see the timing of them get smaller and smaller and smaller. So it started off as like a 45 minutes a few days ago, and then it was like 33 minutes, and then 28 minutes. And it's funny to just see how it's like you've just got to talk about whatever you can talk about, but there's only so many times you can talk about, Tangela flirting and, JC being weird and, causing issues, and Haleigh leaving. It's like there's only so much you can say.
Yeah. To be fair, half-hour updates are actually pretty good in comparison to the last few seasons we've covered, where they would sometimes get down to 10 minutes. So I think, like, in comparison, the bad parts of this season are still a lot better than most parts of the last few seasons.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm not complaining at all. This season has been light years better than what we've got in the past 2 seasons of Big Brother US. It's no comparison at all. And honestly, having 1 or 2 boring weeks out season, that's really good, considering that Big Brother 19 we had maybe more than half of the weeks as boring weeks. So I'm not complaining here.
By the way, I also wanted to make an announcement for moderators in the chat, of which I am one of them, stacked other people. If you see people, we don't know if Julie Chen is going to lead Big Brother. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's happening with Les Moonves and his exit compensation. So none of that in the chat. Don't ask us. We don't know. Don't talk about it. We're here to talk about Big Brother, the show you're watching on TV, not the occupational hazards of working at CBS or someone's spouse who's married at CBS. So just keep that in mind when you're in the chat, because I really don't want to talk about it, and I will put you in detention, or stacked will, if you're asking me if Julie Chen's going to be there this Thursday. We don't know if she's going to be there this Thursday. Watch on Thursday. Yeah, I'm fired up tonight, Taran.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that we know that you guys don't. I think she said she was going to be there Thursday, so I would assume she's going to be there Thursday. But, you know, we unfortunately are not best friends with Julie Chen, and we do not know any of this information.
Yeah, and in regards to this whole, like, Save Big Brother thing, I highly doubt that they're going to cancel Big Brother altogether just because of this. Big Brother is super cheap to produce, and it's one of their most successful shows, especially during the summer when there's nothing else going on. I see absolutely no reason for Big Brother to not come back next season. So I think this whole, like, Save Big Brother campaign, I think that it's going to be
fine. If it's not on CBS, it's going to be on another network. Girl, bye. It's going to be fine. Let's just check.
I don't think we have anything to worry about. And I am a worrier.
Yes. So there you go with that. So let's talk about this week on Big Brother 20. Obviously, we saw Scottie being evicted unanimously. He said in his exit interviews that he thinks Tyler's a coward, Kaycee is a hypocrite, JC is a follower that he doesn't respect. So he's got a lot of bitterness to spread around here, Brent.
Yeah, he's not a good look for a super fan on the way out the door, I have to tell you. I'm a little disappointed. I don't know if he's spent too much time with Bayleigh and Rockstar in jury, and now it's just catching when he goes back in the house and out again. But it wasn't a good look, and I was pretty disappointed in him. Not disappointed for what he said in his eviction speech when he was on the block and pleading with them. I thought that was actually pretty funny, and I appreciated the humor and metaphor of it all. But his comments since being out of the Big Brother house leave much to be desired. But we can get into the bitter jury talk later on in the podcast.
All right. So Kaycee then is going to win the HOH by less than a second. And, you know, certainly the battle back and the hacker did not help, but this is we came so close to an exciting week this week with Bret nearly winning this HOH, but was not meant to be. Kaycee wins the HOH. Her first thought, of course, is to put up Haleigh and Sam. She is going to do so. She's then going to win the veto as well, and she's not going to use it. I've talked about this a little bit. I feel like this is not the best move for Kaycee to be winning all of these competitions. Obviously, it was good for her to beat out Bret because Bret might have taken a shot at her and Angela. Granted, she doesn't believe that that's true, but it's definitely not a good thing for her to win this veto. I think she's just been winning too many competitions, and if Tyler had half a brain that wasn't focused on Angela, I think he would be recognizing this and that he shouldn't take Kaycee to the end, and I think she is a bit reliant on him to take her to the end at the moment. So between that and the fact that the more power she has, the more likely the jury is going to be bitter against her, that she needs to be looking out for that. Melissa, what did you think about Kaycee's veto win?
I don't think it's a great move for Kaycee. I don't think she needed to win the veto. I mean, obviously she didn't need to win the veto. She's HOH. But even so, even if she wanted to control where everything's going, I really don't think she needed to. I think that there are other things that could have been done, and I think she had a lot of other people that were fighting for that veto as well. It's not like it was either Haleigh leaves this week or someone from level 6 leaves. It's Haleigh leaves this week or Sam leaves this week, and who really cares? So I think that I really don't think she needed to win it. Obviously, I don't think it super hurts her at this point that she did win it, but it could, because people now are seeing the fact that she's won so many vetoes and this HOH all in a row. And if I'm in that house, I'm going to sit there and be like, this girl is a serious threat. Like, we've got to get her out. And I could see a situation where she ends up on the block for one reason or another, not because she's the target, but then people are like, wait a second, why are we not taking this shot now when we actually have the chance to do it? Because we might not get this chance later since she always wins veto. So I could totally see this being totally hurting her game. And so I don't think she should have done it. I think she should have. I know it's a situation where it's like she doesn't know the other people's times. And so it's like, well, how could she know? But 2 minutes, she's got to know that is the fastest time out there. So she could have just taken it a little slower because she's not in danger this week. But, oh well.
Yeah, I thought it was bad form on her part to win as well. Not to belabor a point, but here's the thing. If Tyler is half the player I think he is, he will show us in the diary room that he's rethinking taking Kaycee to the final two. I have to believe that he will think about it twice. I do worry, though, that it's a little bit of the Kayla scenario. Of course, Kayla did not win the final HOH in Big Brother Canada 6, but she was planning on cutting her showmance because she wanted to make the big move. Of course, nobody knows that these two people are in the showmance, but still, I'm sure he does not feel great about potentially taking his showmance to the end of the game. He's been set on this Kaycee taking her to the end for a long time. For a while, it looked like a fantastic strategy. Then it started looking less like a fantastic strategy when I started seeing how she was really interacting with the house guests who were leaving the house. And now I think it's a horrible strategy. I disagree with you that I think that her stint as HOH is far better than Tyler's stint as HOH, even though virtually they're one and the same in terms of what's happening, because I feel like she is I feel like she's a better liar. I feel like Tyler's a little mealy mouth in terms of what he's trying to get across, and that's obviously when he's trying to hide something from you or lying. He's like, no. And I feel like Kaycee is a better liar and thus a more calming presence. And even when people are ultimately played by her, I think they may not hold it against her. So I think they respect Kaycee, and I don't know that they respect Tyler as much. And so this veto win just hones home. It brings home that point that she should not be winning. Like, the worst case scenario, Haleigh wins and Sam goes home. Is that the worst case ever?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah,
it's not like Haleigh goes or one of her alliance members goes. It's like either Haleigh goes or Sam goes. There's still an alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm referring to in terms of her, the more she's in power, the more likely she's going to turn people bitter, is that's exactly what we saw happen with Scottie, where she won that veto and chose not to use it. And now Scottie, who previously had good feelings about Kaycee, is feeling like, oh, she's a hypocrite. I can't believe she's actually, doing the things that she's doing in this game. She's just following what other people are saying while claiming to be something else. And that's really hypocritical. And he's super bitter about it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he found out that, if Haleigh comes to the jury house and she's like, yeah, Angela won HOH, or Kaycee won HOH and veto, she sent me home. And Scottie's like, freaking Kaycee, such a hypocrite, can't believe what she's doing.
Do you think that there's a chance that in this scheme of foul taste, if they follow through with it, that Kaycee could be one of the people that's vetoed?
Yeah, I think Scottie would pick Kaycee as the person he would want to veto at this point. He seemed to have the most bitter feelings toward her. I think that there is a small amount of respect that he has for Tyler, and that he does like him a little bit still. Like he always had that relationship with him. At this point, I think he would vote for Bret over anyone else. Of course, barring Haleigh somehow getting there. But I do feel like Scottie would pick Tyler over Kaycee at this point. And I no longer feel like Kaycee is the person that wouldn't be vetoed. In fact, I think Bret is the person that wouldn't be vetoed, as odd as that is, because like thinking about it, who vetoes Bret? It would be Rockstar, but she's more likely to veto Angela. And again, it's like, how does this system even work in terms of can you so I actually feel like Bret is in a position to benefit here, and I actually feel like Bret has been doing some decent jury management with some of the people on their way out. Granted, he had some pretty terrible jury management with the first couple of jury members, so hard to say either way in that case. But this overall, it's just like all of these jury members are bitter. Like, Scottie's super bitter toward Kaycee and JC, and Rockstar is super bitter toward Bret and Angela. Bayleigh is super bitter toward Angela, a little bit toward Kaycee, a little bit toward Tyler, and then you got Fessy, who's just going to do whatever Haleigh says, and she doesn't seem to be bitter in the house right now, but she has talked about being bitter in the house when she's out of the house, so who knows where she might land. She seems to be most bitter toward Angela. She mentioned in the house this week that she would vote for Tyler or Kaycee over Angela if they were in the final two with her. So it's really all over the place in terms of there's one constant, which is that they all hate Angela. They don't want to vote for Angela. They all love Haleigh. They want to vote for Haleigh. But beyond that, it's really kind of up in the air as far as I can see. I know there's been a lot of assumptions that Kaycee will win the vote, but I don't see that anywhere close to a guarantee, Melissa.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think earlier in the game, I could have said, "Oh, I absolutely see Kaycee winning a vote." But now that she's actually inserting herself into the game in places where I don't really think that she needs to be, like obviously, I like the idea of her, padding her resume and putting a lot of comps on there, so that way at least she can point to that stuff. But at the same time, every comp that she wins means that she's getting someone evicted, and I think that Kaycee's biggest strength when it came to winning this game was that she wasn't upsetting anyone in the jury and that everyone liked her. She seemed to be universally liked. So that's honestly what I was relying on when it came to me thinking, okay, Kaycee has a really good shot at winning. But now with these comp wins, I feel like she's getting rid of the one thing that was really making her stand out from everyone else. And she's kind of getting on more of an even playing field with Tyler when it comes to the jury, because initially I was like, Tyler's winning a ton of comps and getting blood on his hands, and Tyler's got the only thing is that Tyler has the likability factor with the jury, but I felt like Kaycee, while she wasn't winning a lot of comps, she really had that likability factor, whereas Angela was seemingly in power with her HOHs and everything and getting people in the jury, putting people in the jury, but she really didn't have the likability. So I felt like there was it weighed heavily in favor of Kaycee in terms of likability, and now I don't see it weighing that way anymore. So that's why I feel like this might be a little tricky when it comes down to the stretch for Kaycee to win, whereas before I thought she would win hands down.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about it, Kaycee had, a bad fight with Bayleigh before Bayleigh left. Granted, most people did, but Bayleigh was like, "Kaycee, you're laughing at me in my time of misery." She fought with Rockstar before Rockstar left. She was the one that put Rockstar on the block. Rockstar thought that was a cowardly move. She got into an argument with Kaycee about it. She got into an argument with Scottie before he left the first time. She doesn't do well with confrontation. I don't know how she'll handle the jury questioning. Granted, that doesn't usually change people's minds, but I feel like they might not be very dead set about who they're most bitter toward. And if she really pisses them off in the final questioning, it could make a difference theoretically. We've seen that there have been some votes that may or may not have been swayed based on final questioning, especially in the last couple of seasons. So lots to think about in terms of the jury, but let's finish out the week here. Kaycee obviously doesn't win the veto, or doesn't use the veto. JC and Bret are still talking about taking their shot at Angela in the upcoming HOH. They're worried that Angela is going to come for them, so they need to make sure that they take a shot at her. Kaycee is keeping Haleigh in the dark about the fact that she's going home. Everyone is keeping Haleigh in the dark about the fact that she's going home. And as of right now, the vote is unanimous that Haleigh will be leaving the house on Thursday night, but somebody else will as well, because it is a double eviction, and there's I think every single person in that house can leave except for Tyler come Thursday night. Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Brent?
I mostly agree. I'll be a little fancy uncertain about Tyler, because I do think there is maybe a scenario where he leaves, where Bret wins HOH, nominates Angela and Kaycee. Angela wins the veto, and now he has to get Kaycee evicted. Or he has to put somebody on the block next to Kaycee, rather. And then you're like, are you really going to evict Kaycee over Tyler? And Tyler's not pissed off with you because he didn't agree with your move. I don't know how Tyler's going to react to that happening. So I think there might be a sliver of a chance that he goes home, and I'm not just wishing for it. Believe me, I'm not wishing for it, but I do think there may be a small way for that to happen, because Bret has to realize that if you go for this move and it doesn't work, if you're trying to get Angela out, you put Angela and Kaycee on the block, Angela wins the veto, you can't then back away from it. You have to do something at that point to break this threesome up. And because if he names Sam or JC as a replacement nominee, then obviously he's not going to have the votes. He would have to at least put Tyler on the block. And if you do that, are you pissing him off enough where you just want to evict him in the first place? So I don't know. What do you think?
But don't you think in that spot they're more worried about the Angela Kaycee duo, especially with Kaycee having just won 5 competitions in 5 weeks, and they're probably thinking, well, Kaycee is the person that I've already taken the shot.
I think so.
Especially looking at the votes, you got Sam and JC, who I think would be a Tyler locks anyway, and then Bret, who I feel like is likely to think through the logic and still vote to keep Tyler. It's really just like, I don't think JC is voting against Tyler no matter what. And then, maybe Bret might decide he wants Kaycee out over, or he wants Tyler out over Kaycee, which I don't think he would. But then even if he did, he'd have to, in the moment, convince Sam to vote Tyler out, which just feels like not very possible.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's possible. All right, sorry. I don't think it's probable, but I do think that I think there's a universe where that happens. I'll just put it like that. So I think everybody's on the board to go out on the double eviction, because I don't know how they're going to react by being backstabbed. I don't know what Kaycee and Angela are going to say. I don't know how Tyler's going to react, if he's going to take their side. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I did want to really talk about the fact that you mentioned that they are keeping Haleigh in the dark about the fact that she's about to be evicted. And I was very taken with your conversation with Jenny today on the Live Feeds update, where you were talking about the fact that, whether you get a bitter jury or not, it's kind of there's an element of chance to it, depending on the people that are on the jury and what order they're ultimately evicted in and placed on the jury. And I have to say that I would submit that there is an element at play here that's causing many of these people to be bitter, and that's the fact that they're all being blindsided. None of them have any idea that they're going out of the house. I was reminded today that James continually spoiled all of our blindsides in Big Brother 18 because he was trying to, essentially create some sort of jury management by letting people know they're on the way out the door that they were going home. And there's a reason for that, because people get pissed off when they are made a fool of on national television. So I think that might be an element here that is causing these jurors to be bitter, number one. And number two, the other thing you said was the fact that it's okay to just vote for the person you don't like or the person that you least respect because you don't like the other person. And I think that in reality show parlance, it's always been an up or down vote on one finalist or another, irrespective of the fact that the other person may be completely undeserving in your eyes. You know what I mean? It's I think back to like Kobe and Palau, where he was like, it's either an up or down vote on you, like Leanne with Twyla, where she was like, look, it's all about you. I don't really care about Chris. It's an up or down vote on you. Or even back to Amber and Rob, up or down vote on them. So I feel like that's pretty typical and par for the course as far as reality TV shows go, especially when you have a final two, which was what I love about a final two, is that it's A or B. It's not, choose one of the above. So I would probably push back on parts of your conversation earlier today a little bit.
I'm not exactly
Go ahead.
Sure what you're even getting at with that.
I'm getting at the fact that, number one, this jury is bitter not because of chance and the order that they were evicted, but because they're being blindsided and made a fool of as they're going out the door. I think that is a big part of it.
You can come up with you can come up with a reason for why people are bitter anytime. Like, you can say they're bitter and then trace back the reason every single time, no matter what. But the point is that, sometimes people are blindsided and they are super not bitter. Sometimes they're blindsided and they're super bitter. And I think that if you traced back, like, who is blindsided versus who is not blindsided, you probably would not find a correlation between being blindsided and being bitter.
Yeah, I would probably disagree with that. I think you would find a correlation based on the people that are totally blindsided, have no idea that it's coming, and then
the Big Brother 19 players were not blindsided, but they were a very bitter jury.
Raven was, and Kevin was.
Raven was the one that Raven and Kevin were not bitter. That goes to, it's the opposite of what you're saying.
Oh,
no, but I do see what Brent's saying. Like,
but
I do think
it makes sense if you don't think about the actual examples and you're not trying to look at the actual like data. But I think if you actually look at the examples, then you're looking at a reverse correlation.
Well, I
hadn't really thought about
jury, but I think that if you were to ask maybe like this particular jury, like if it turns out to be a bitter jury, and you ask them like, why were you bitter against these
why are you
people?
so mad?
Yeah, like why are you mad? It seems to me the way that they're talking and the way that their interviews are going are that they're bitter because they were blindsided. That's kind of what
when have they said that though?
They haven't said that exactly, but the way that they talk about it is like, it seems that they're bitter because of those things. And that's why they feel stupid. They didn't know that this was going on. And I do think that if then in the end they're like, oh yeah, you guys were idiots because we were in an alliance the whole time and you had no idea. I could see this jury being upset about that and not being like, wow, great game, guys. You guys played a really great game. If they turn out to be bitter, I don't know. I'm just saying I could see a reason. Because for me, like, maybe that would make me better is to feel stupid. I know people don't want to feel stupid on TV. And in regards to the blindsides thing, I think that in the beginning it made a lot of sense because it created a lot of chaos. Nobody knew about the alliances. No one really understood what was going on. But at this point in the game, I don't see why they're trying to blindside Haleigh. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I feel like they would get a lot more credit if they would just be like, hey, you're a really big competitor in comparison to Sam. Like, we really respect your game. Like, but it's just, we have to get you out. We know you're coming for us or whatever. I think Tyler should at least go talk to her and say, like, look, I saw you as a really strong competitor. You put me on the block. Like, I just wanted to let you know that this is what's going on. And I could absolutely, if Tyler did that, I could absolutely see Haleigh going to the jury and being like, Tyler's the good guy. He told me I was going to be going. I could see her vouching for them, and I could see them changing their mind because of something Haleigh said.
Like, I understand the appeal of something that you feel like just makes sense. If they blindside them, they'll be bitter. But I've heard nothing from the jurors about being bitter about being blindsided. In fact, most of them weren't blindsided by their evictions at this point. And those that were did not talk about being blindsided as the reason that they were.
Yeah, they talked about, oh, I knew I was going the whole time, which they clearly didn't. They just didn't want to look stupid.
Nobody is saying they should have said something. They should have told, like, nobody's saying that. What they are saying is they in fact most of them are admitting, like, we sucked. They did so much better. We just hate them because they're entitled or because because they're too good. Like, literally Haleigh and Fessy said they're just too good at the game. It makes me mad. So I don't want to vote for them. Like, I don't know why we're attributing things to them that they haven't come out and said.
I just think that it doesn't make any. I guess to me, and as like a person who's watching the game or whatever,
like, I get that you're attributing your own feelings toward them, but that's not their feelings. No, I'm saying it doesn't make any sense for them to vote that way, saying they're just too good at this game, so I'm not going to vote for them. It doesn't make any sense to do that. So there has to be something underlying that. I really think that you don't think it makes sense to be mad that you lost and to not want to vote for the person that beat you?
I don't think that the reasoning is they're too good. They're just so good at it.
They literally said that out
I know, but you're gonna say that because you're not gonna say I look like a moron, and that's
what they said.
They're saying it in a joking way, but they're not saying it like I looked stupid. I was hurt. So that's why I don't want to vote for them. Like, I'm looking at like the inner reasoning behind it. I can say all I want, like, I hate them, they're just mean people or whatever. But really, I'm probably thinking that I'm totally hurt by what they did to me. Why wasn't I included in this plan? Like, why wasn't I on that side of the house? I really think that that's what it is. And
like, they're telling you the base instinct, which is, I'm mad that I lost. That hurts. It had nothing to. They're not saying this has anything to do with being blindsided. It's just that they lost and that hurts, and that's the raw feeling that they usually come up with excuses for later on, like, oh, you should have told me, or oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. That would have made me not bitter. But the raw feeling is just that they're mad that they're lost.
I'm not saying that they would feel not upset had they been told. I'm saying that they felt stupid. They felt like they had been played. They felt stupid and embarrassed on national television.
For
and
losing.
That's why they don't want to vote for them. But not because
Right.
they think that they're just such good players that they don't want to vote for them. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, like, of course, like they're saying they're so good at the game. We're so bad. We lost. This sucks. We're morons. Like, I hate this. I don't want to reward the players that beat us because they made us look like idiots, regardless of whether or not we were blindsided, just because they beat us so bad.
I think that this is a pretty accurate thing. Ashley in the chat just says, you're looking at pure data, Taran, and I'm considering
Since
the emotional side of things because you're saying that's what they said. And I'm saying, well, under that, there's the emotion behind it. So it's funny to see the way that we interpret the conversation.
You can't just say I'm not talking about emotion when that's what I'm talking about.
You're talking
I'm talking about
exactly
the emotion.
What they said, though. You're saying that this is what they said, though, and we have to go with off what they said. And I'm saying, yeah, but
I'm not
there's
saying we have
a
to.
hidden
Look,
meaning.
listen, what I'm saying is that they have talked about this and they've talked about their emotions, and we have heard from multiple different people, and none of them have talked about anything that had anything to do with getting blindsided. They've talked about things like, we're mad that we got beat. We're mad that this person is a privileged, whatever. I get the joke is that I'm a robot, but just because that's the joke doesn't mean that I'm not talking about emotion and that I'm only focusing on data. I'm incorporating what they said with an emotional read on them as players and combining that to make an analysis. You are coming up with things from whole cloth that none of them have ever talked about and that you think that you would feel in that instance, but has nothing to do with what they might be feeling.
I do think that that's what they're feeling, though. I do, from what I've heard them say, it does seem to me that they feel like they look stupid.
Yes,
and when
that's what
someone
I'm
feels
saying.
like they've been made a fool of, then they're not going to want to vote for them, not because they think they're a great player. I think that that's the difference, is they're not, I don't think that they're voting for them because they're a great player and that they're just too good.
I don't know what
think
you're
they're
talking
voting for
about.
them because they're not voting for them because they made them look stupid and they're hurt.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. That's what they are saying, that they feel hurt because they've been made stupid because the other side played so well that they look like idiots. That's what they're saying. And
Okay.
Like, that's
I didn't realize what a can of worms I opened up by bringing that up. My God. Oh my God. I want to know. I just want you to know I'm buying stock in Melissa this week. That's what I'm doing. I'm buying stock.
For what reason, Brent?
I'm best.
Because she was serving it and it was fabulous, and I liked it because she was getting under your skin. So there's that. But no, Terry, you make a fair point. What I'm trying to say is I think there is an element to the fact that they were made a fool of that is hindering their votes here or their potential bitterness. But like the chat points out, though, every juror is bitter that they lost. They're pissed. They lost the game. It's whether or not you let that bitterness control the result of your final vote. And as far as that goes, I would take your point that maybe not a lot can be drawn whether or not they're blindsided or not. But I do think that for some of these people, that is at least a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm just saying. It doesn't make sense to ascribe a motivation to them that is a specific motivation that they have never talked about. That doesn't make sense when they've talked about other motivations.
Well, with all respect, though, I do agree with Melissa that they're never going to say that in an exit interview or in the House. Like, well, I was made a fool of. So,
but they have said that in the House and in exit interviews.
They said that I made a mistake. We were bad. Faute's bad. Ha ha ha. But they haven't said, like, I'm voting this way because I feel like I was made a fool of and I'm really hurt by it.
That's exactly what Haleigh and Fessy talked about. Like, literally word for word.
Yeah, but they were mad at the time.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's like, you're saying they would never say this, but this is exactly what they said when they were mad, when the emotion was the most raw.
I can't wait until I'm on a reality show and I can create and stir the pot like this and just watch everybody get mad and then just like smile over in the corner like the Cheshire Cat. I think we should move on for the purposes of the chat. But I'm declaring you both winners. How's that?
I never thought Brent was gonna have to be a mediator. Usually that's my job.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you were just an extension of Brent's argument there. Like.
Yeah, she did better than I ever could. I needed a lawyer to help me out. Thank you.
Well, so here we are. That's where the house currently stands. That Haleigh does not know that she is leaving at the moment, and she will be at the moment leaving with a unanimous vote. So the state of the house really basically where it was last week. We've got level 6, Tyler, Bret, Kaycee, and Angela. They've kind of dropped JC at this point. Tyler has final twos with every single person that will be remaining in the house after Haleigh leaves. Tyler and JC, Tyler and Kaycee, Tyler and Bret, Tyler and Sam, Tyler and Angela are obviously a showmance. JC and Bret are the one pair, the one thing that Tyler is not really a part of, but of course he does have separate final twos with the both of them that I think they're both probably more loyal to than each other. However, they are working together at the moment to try and take a shot at Angela, and that's really where the house stands right now.
Yep. The thing I'm most intrigued about, these double eviction HOHs are usually a crapshoot or, before and after, step 2, step here, and I am curious about what would happen if Sam won HOH against all odds. I think that would be a unique experience to have Sam HOH during a live double eviction. I'm for certain that she would put Angela on the block. I am not so certain who she would place next to Angela, and that would dictate a lot of what happens in the night. So do you want to talk about that, or do you just what?
I'm actually, I think that Sam would be interesting because she would be such a wild card. However, I worry that Sam would actually be the worst outcome for the double eviction, because what I worry that she'll do is she'll put up Angela and then she'll put up Bret next to Angela as the pawn. Either through Tyler's influence or just because she wants to. And if that's the case, then Tyler and Kaycee will be able to just peel off the Band-Aid of Bret without having to get any blood on their hands. And I do feel like that would be that's like the one outcome in the double eviction that I think would be like not very exciting and then set us up for an unfortunate and not quite as exciting end game. So I'm actually kind of like let's just hope that Sam doesn't get it, because I'm a little bit worried about that outcome.
Yeah, I'm worried about that outcome as well.
She doesn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The fact that she could put Bret up as a pawn, quote unquote, and then Tyler and Kaycee would have carte blanche to be able to say, well, we had to choose between, two of our favorite L6ers, and we had to pick one of you. Sorry, Bret, you're the more threatening. And he obviously knows he's the more threatening. So he would go home, and he would have no idea that they were planning on betraying him, even maybe that night if Tyler had won HOH. So I'm also very curious to see what Tyler does if he wins HOH. Is he going to follow through with what he's been telling Angela and Kaycee, that JC or Sam and JC on the block, and JC's going to be pissed, or is he going to take a shot at Bret? I know he's been trying to drop hints to Kaycee about Bret along the way, but I'm not convinced yet whether he would really rip the Band-Aid off and put Bret up, mainly because of what I do think there's an element to the whole fact that they're paying 5th place, 4th place, and 3rd place now. It was talked about on the feeds that they're giving like $5,000 to 5th place, $7,500 to 4th place, and $10,000 to 3rd, which is one of the reasons why they want JC in the final 5 rather than Sam, because JC's done more work than them. The order of events and what might happen, it might be a little bit dictated by that, but I'm also more curious to see if Tyler's fears about Bret ultimately play a role in what happens on Thursday night, because if I was Tyler, they should.
Yeah, if Bret goes, I hope it's by Tyler's hand. I think that would be the most dramatic way of doing it, because if Angela does it, even then it would be a little more expected and a little not quite as exciting. And then also, I do feel like Bret is potentially going to be very. I mean, he talked about if they took a shot at me on that veto ceremony, I would be so bitter. I would never vote for Kaycee if she did that to me. So there's a chance that he would be very, very bitter if any of the level 6 members turn on him prior to the final 4, which would be, another interesting thing to think about. Like, again, this bitter jury stuff. I talked about this morning, but I feel like I do feel like this season in particular, these players in particular, have been influenced by the fan reaction of the previous season's bitter jury, where it was kind kind of seen as, I know there were some people that were mad, but there were also people that were very happy about the outcome, and that Brent was very happy about the outcome, and people like me and a lot of people were sort of justifying the outcome in the sense that like Paul kind of earned this on his own, and I think that kind of has put it out into the ether of Big Brother fandom that, you know, people, bitter juries they're a thing. You got to watch out for them. And so in a more acute way than it would be, you know, prior to this season, where like they're really looking out for it and they're talking about being bitter and they're using being bitter as a threat in the house and all of these things. And so I do wonder if it's, again, like sort of a period, like it's in the zeitgeist of these current seasons right now that you know, the jury is just, they feel more free to be bitter. And I think that something that has held previous juries back in terms of voting quote unquote bitterly is that they are afraid of making the wrong decision and having the fans not like them or not like their season, because, you know, that was, you know, after Danielle loses season 3, it's kind of like, do you really want to cause that same sort of thing? After Dan loses season 14, we get a string of non-bitter juries. You know, I think that does have a lot to do with it. That said, Allison Grodner has come out and she has told us that the final 2 are in fact eligible for America's Favorite Player. I think that in general there will be a bit of an uproar if Tyler did lose to a quote unquote bitter jury. I think that if he then won the fan favorite, I think that this might be something that turns the tides in the other way. If this is seen as not a favorable result and the jury is sort of blamed for it and chastised for it, and it does drag the season down as a whole, then maybe we will see another sort of counter movement in terms of that. We talk about the movements in gameplay where like season 12 impacted how people played, season 16 impacted how people played in the house, but we don't often talk about how the jury responds and how the jury acts based on previous seasons and reactions to previous seasons. So I thought this was something interesting to think about. Melissa, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that, like, I don't like the idea that people in the House are currently, like you said, holding votes hostage by basically saying, like, yeah, well, I'm going to be a bitter juror, so either, like, keep me around or get me out before jury or whatever they're saying. It's just, like, I don't like the idea that I liked the idea when we were like, okay, bitter jury is a thing, and we heard them all talking about it in the House and saying, like, I don't want to be a bitter juror. I hope we don't have a bitter jury. Like, that was a bitter jury, and that's why Paul lost, whatever. So I was liking that because I was like, good, it's like in the mindset of these House guests that is something to avoid. Now I feel like they're using it as part of their strategy, saying, well, I'm going to be a bitter juror. And it's more of a thing like, I'm going to do this, and rather than something to avoid. And so I'm not a fan of that. I feel like, did we open up a can of worms and give the jury this option of being an out and out bitter jury and not being ashamed of it and not trying to create a justification for their vote? And now they can just say, yeah, well, sorry, you didn't have good jury management. I just feel like, I don't know if we opened up a can of worms or if this is just like, yeah, it was going to happen anyway. I'm hoping we didn't open up a can of worms, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it must have some impact. I mean, they've talked about it in the House. You know, everyone, like, nobody I mean, we talk again. It influenced their gameplay. I think, in the sense that, like, nobody wanted to be a follower in the way that they were to Paul. I think that the sort of you know, who got the last laugh last season. I really feel like it has some kind of impact on how people see this jury, and I think it's impacting people like Scottie as well, who you know, he's looking for, like, who is the person that I am bitter toward, who is the person that I'm going to get the last laugh at, as we're seeing in his exit interview. So just something that I think is interesting, and I do think that the sort of the fan reaction to the result of this season could be something that influences future seasons, which would be very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to wait and see what happens. I mean, I know that's an old-fashioned way to look at things, but I'm like, I still have faith. I have faith that we will not get a bitter jury at the end of this. I think that a majority of the people will vote for the person who they believe played the best game. And I won't even be mad if in trying to be a bitter jury, they end up awarding Tyler the win, which would be the most Falte thing ever. If they think they're voting for the worst person, and then they give the win to Tyler because they think he's being controlled by Angela, yada yada yada. So that would be the most apropos way for this season to end, is if Falte pulled another Falte one last time, Taran.
Yes. I don't think there's much else to talk about here. So I think it's time to go to the stock watch. By
the way, really quickly, just what I was saying before about the fact that you had made a point on the show about the fact that you don't like it that people are able to just basically ignore the other finalists. And, who cares if they're the worst player ever, whether they're the worst player in the house currently, or the worst finalist of the two, and vote for them because they just got bitter towards the other person. I was trying to say right
away, that's a mischaracterization of
okay,
what I was saying.
What were you? Then go ahead. What were you saying then today?
I don't think I ever said anything about not liking a result of something like that. I mean, I think, like I said, like that's basically what happened last season with Paul, and I thought that was justified.
Right. Okay. My point is just that it's happened since the beginning of time in reality TV that people vote against people in a final twos. It's just an up or down scenario. That's what I love about it, and I don't think it's necessarily something new that just happened last season. Even Josh, right. In some people's eyes, Josh may have been the worst winner ever. I personally don't think he is, but I feel like that there were people on the jury who voted for him because they actually liked him, and there are other people who were just like, I just don't like Paul, so I'm going to vote for you, Josh. Obviously, Cody being one of them. So, it takes all kinds, Taran.
Right. I don't think I argued.
Well, I mean, like I wrote down exactly what you said, and I felt like you said it, but you're saying that you didn't mean it that way. So, I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about then. If you go along with that in the first place, I think that voting up or down based on one finalist and totally ignoring the merits of the other has been happening since the beginning of time. It's not something new that just happened with the beginning of Josh. Okay, we're good then.
Okay. So let's get to the stock watch for this week.
I hate it when you do that, by the way, when you look at me like I'm like a dumb person. I
don't even understand what you're arguing against. No, you're kind of
like, it's a little condescending where you're just like, okay, like it's a little much sometimes. I'm just saying.
You're like, oh, Taran, you said you don't like when this happens, and then it just started last season. Like I didn't say anything close to that.
Oh, that's what it sounded like to me. But I can go back and listen to you and Jenny while you and Melissa go on. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the stock watch.
Yes, let's.
There's so much drama. We're making this is better than the feeds for everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Yes.
Well, because the thing is, like, Brent will say that I said this, and then people will be like, "Oh, now Taran's just being defensive, claiming that he did." Like, but I never said any of that, and now people are gonna think that I said that.
Wow, Taran, you're being so defensive.
Which is annoying.
Yes, that's definitely annoying.
All right, so let's get to the stock watch for this week. Here we go. Whoops, that's the wrong page. All right.
Stop arguing. Linda in the chat says, stop arguing. What are we here for, Linda? Get out of here. Oh, my God.
What else are we going to do this week?
Yeah, right?
It should not be surprising to anyone that there's significantly more arguing when there's nothing else
happening.
To talk about.
Yeah. I feel like this always happens.
Not a coincidence. So here we go. Let's start off the stock watch. Kaycee is our HOH. Last week, we were all pretty high on Kaycee. I had her at a 7, as did Melissa and the audience. Brent had her at an 8. Brent, are you still high on Kaycee?
I am, and the reason I'm high on her is because not necessarily anything that she's done. Obviously, the fact that she won an HOH and a veto, we can debate the merits of and have. It's the fact of who she is. I do think that she has a great chance to make it to the end until I hear differently from Tyler. I do think that she has helped as unfair as it is, by the fact that she's number one, a woman, number two, a person of color, and number three, a member of the LGBT community. I think all of those things weigh heavily on the first two jurors, Bayleigh and Rockstar. And I think that Fessy will kind of do whatever they say. And I think that that if she gets to the end, she has at least 3 votes in the bag right away. If Kaycee's in the final 2, I think she has 3 votes in the bag, no matter who she's up against. So I like her chances. I like her current place in the House. Obviously, the dread scenario for her would be somebody like Bret or JC winning HOH, and one of two things: either Angela winning the veto or Tyler winning the veto, because well, actually, if Tyler wins the veto, then they're going to save both of them. So never mind. I was going to say he'd have to choose, but it would ultimately save both of them. So the one scenario for her is Angela winning the veto. In that scenario, I do think that she goes home, but that's unlikely to happen. So if you're a Kaycee fan, which I know Taran is because he has lots of stock of her, then let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yes, Melissa, what do you think?
I feel like I'm not super high on Kaycee right now because of her veto win. I feel like her doing that, and also the fact that I feel like Haleigh was really liking Kaycee a lot, and then Kaycee puts her on the block and then doesn't use the veto, like basically seals her fate. Whereas before, like maybe if she didn't win the veto and maybe Angela won it and kept the noms the same, Kaycee could have said like, look, if I had gotten the veto, I would have used it on you because I don't want you. You're not my target, or whatever she could have said. Instead, she's like, basically she's the reason they're still there, and she can't use that as an excuse like, oh, I would have used it on you or whatever. I just feel like Haleigh's going to think of Kaycee as the one who got her out. Even though the other people are voting, even though HOH can't vote, I do feel like she's going to put all the blame on Kaycee, and she can't share that blame with anyone else because Kaycee was HOH and Kaycee won the veto. So I don't like the idea of winning competitions when you don't need to, personally. So I just feel like I would have been higher on her had she not won the veto this week, but because she won the veto, I just got to give her, I'm just going to stick with my 7.
Yes, I feel pretty similarly. I do feel like I feel like she is still one of the more likely people to make it to the final 2, only because Tyler has said he plans on taking her, and he hasn't said otherwise at this point. That said, I don't think she's a lock to win. I actually do feel like Tyler still would probably beat her in the end. And that means I do think she would beat Angela, but she doesn't want to take Angela. I think she would beat a lot of people, but I don't think she would take anyone except for Tyler, which means that somebody else would have to take Tyler out for her. And that doesn't seem likely, if even possible. So it seems like the only way Kaycee gets to the end is if she's sitting next to Tyler, who I think is the person that is the most difficult person to beat. That said, she is dominating the game along with Tyler, so the likelihood of her being there is pretty high. So I also have her at a 7, like a moderate rating here. I think she's going to be there, and if she's there, then the jury can go any which way. So yep. I have her there at a 7. The audience, though, has in fact gone up on Kaycee's chances. They have her at an 8. Which means her overall price here is going to be $8, which I think is a new high for Kaycee.
I believe so.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Next up is Haleigh, who is, in fact, on the block and looking like she's going to go home. Shouldn't really be surprising to anyone at this point that I am going to say that I have Haleigh at a 2 still. Very small chance that she somehow gets off the block, and she still has all those jury votes, so she's not quite a 1, but I still have her at a 2. It looks like she's on her way out the door, so not many redeeming qualities in her game. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree. I got to give her a 2 as well. I don't see her staying this week, but this is not a situation where I feel like it's, a done deal that she's leaving, whereas like some of the other weeks we felt that way. I think that there's always a chance maybe Sam goes crazy or she self-evicts or something. So I could see a situation where her versus Sam on the block, maybe Haleigh stays. I don't think it's likely, but it's not a 1 for me. So it's a 2.
Yeah, it's a 2 for me as well. And ironically, the thing that she should be doing is the thing that she's not doing, which is so falte of her. She should be trying to provoke Sam. That's her one lifeline, is for Sam to go crazy, for Sam to be cussing people out, for Sam to be tearing the doors off its hinges, as she said, or for Sam to self-evict. One of those things has to happen in order for Haleigh to stay in the house, and so that's why I have her at a 2. But she's not doing that. She's not throwing it in Sam's face that she's safe. She should be telling Sam if she go. Here's the thing. Let me explain it from Haleigh's point of view. Haleigh has been told by all of these people, yeah, you're staying, but they can't guarantee their vote. They talk in circles, and they're not making plans with her for the coming week. And they're saying that for the people that seem like they might be the most likely to vote against her, they're like, well, I have to see what so-and-so has to say, or I have to check, I have to see what the House is doing, I have to see what Tyler's doing, I have to see what Kaycee's doing. No, you need to know that you are leaving the House, okay? Because otherwise, if they were going to keep you, they would want to make deals with you. Mm-hmm. That's what you do with people who are staying in the House. Look, I'll keep you, but, you can't put me up next week. Okay, sure, fine. But no one is doing that with Haleigh. So she should know she's going out, and because of that, I think she should be doing her best to try to provoke Sam. That's her best way to stay in the house this week, but she's totally oblivious to it. So she's got a 2, and that's only if she figures out that her best way to stay in the house is if someone else named Sam doesn't.
Yeah. The audience agrees with us. Haleigh is going to get straight 2s this week, as the audience also gives Haleigh a 2. I think the
she
lowest...
went from a 7 to just dropping and dropping and dropping.
Yeah, that was week 5, which was that the Rachel eviction week? And then the following week, where she nominated Tyler as the hacker, she went down to a 5, and then continued to drop from that point on. Those hacker twists really hurt Faute, as well as of course the battle back then. Sort of, I think we can also trace the enjoyment of the season back to these twists as well, which we'll talk about. So. Let's talk about Sam, who is also on the block here. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Sam this week?
She gets a 2. I have no further thoughts on Sam. Every week, it's exactly the same. I wish she cared about the game.
I'm going to give her a 3. I can't remember if that's higher or lower than what I gave her in the past. Maybe you can tell me, Taran. Do you know what I gave her?
You gave her a 2 last week.
Okay, well, I'm giving her a higher score. You don't want to know why? Because she's been a good girl on the block. She's been okay. I thought she would go crazy, but she has not been. She has been a totally fine house guest on the block, and given her chances of winning, which is not a non-zero chance at the end, I think that 3 is probably the best score from her.
Yeah, I'm close to giving Sam a 3. I think that she's got odds to stay in this house a lot longer than Haleigh, which for sure, and I think she can win a jury vote. I don't think she's likely to win a jury vote though. So with all of that said, I am gonna stick with my 2 for Sam. I just don't see her winning the game. She should be somebody that's an automatic seat in the final 2. At which point I'd be saying maybe it's a 4 or a 5, but she's not. Nobody's planning on taking her there. She might even go out in this double eviction. So yep. It's not a great spot for her. So I'm gonna give her a 2. The audience, however, agrees with Brent on this one. The audience still at a 3 for Sam. Still got some Sam fans.
Yeah, they're just anti-Tyler fans, basically.
It's a lot of Haleigh 10s, Tyler 1, Bret 10, Tyler 1.
Wow.
Sam, there are some Sam fans. Sam 10, Tyler 1. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So next up is Angela, who is, in my eyes, the most likely person to leave on Thursday night in the double eviction.
Oh,
however,
please,
Brent, what do you think?
Well, I agree. I take that back. I know what my score is I gave her, but before I tell you that, I don't necessarily agree that she's the most likely person to leave the house because I have not been getting my way all season, and I feel like that's just the way things are going to continue to go. I feel like it's going to be a pretty by-the-book double eviction. That's what we've been getting in these seasons is pretty by-the-book double evictions. Raven leaving last season was probably the most exciting thing since sliced bread. I would love nothing more for Angela to go home. As far as her rating and her place in the house, given that I'm trying to remove my bias against it, the fact that I'd never get my way in these double evictions, I do think she's the second most likely person to leave the house. I actually think Sam is the most likely person to leave the house because I think things will probably go according to form. And because of that, I have a relatively okay score for her in a 6. I think if she can survive the double eviction, that she's probably going to. I think she has a great shot at making it to the end of the game, and I also will allow for the possibility, however unlikely as it is, that Kaycee eventually wakes up and realizes it's better to sit next to Angela than it is to sit next to Tyler. I know that sounds crazy. I know she's a bit of a Cody. I get it, but when the money's staring you in the face, I like to think there's a bone in her that realizes, this girl who everybody hates is way better than this guy that everybody loves, but you never know. So that's why I gave her a 6.
All right. I'm actually pretty down on Angela's chances here. Last week I gave her a 6, but I feel like she's done nothing to really secure her spot here. I feel like not only is she the person least likely to win a jury vote at this point, but I do think she is the most likely person to go home, just in terms of numbers. Thinking about it, if Bret or JC win the HOH, I do think they will be targeting Angela. Angela could go home there. Sam could theoretically target Angela and have Angela go home. And then even if Tyler won the HOH, there's a chance that he could maybe force Kaycee or Angela to go home. And Tyler doesn't even plan on taking her to the end. Nobody seems to plan on taking her to the end. It's sort of a reverse Sam situation where like everybody should be wanting to sit next to her in the end, but they're not planning to, and she also can't even win if she gets there potentially. So I'm down to a 4 on Angela. I feel like this is not a good look for Angela. I don't think she's in a great spot right now. I think we might see a week without her next week after this double eviction. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
I feel it's hard to say because I feel sometimes good about her and sometimes not so good about her. But I do kind of feel like this is a repeat of last week in my mind. So I feel like I've had the same rating for everyone from like last week and the week before, just because like I feel like we knew that Fessy was going. We knew that Scottie was going. We know that Haleigh's going. And I feel like none of these things are surprising. So I don't really feel like people's positions in the house are changing that drastically. The double eviction, that's obviously going to change some things unless Sam goes out the door and then it changes nothing. But I do still think the Tangela thing hurts her. I do still think that she clearly doesn't have any friends in the jury house. But I don't think that she's really hurt her game that much this week from last week. So I'm just going to stick with a 6.
All right. The audience agrees with the two of you. The audience also gave her a 6, so I'm the lowest here on Angela's chances. I believe this is going to make her $6 total.
Yeah, you gave her a 4?
Yes.
Yeah,
3 6s and a 4. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. Sticking at around $6 for Angela. Let's move on to Tyler. I gave Tyler a 9 last week. Melissa gave him a 9. The audience an 8. And Brent gave his first 10 of the season to Tyler last week. So, Brent, are you still up at a 10 for Tyler?
I am. This week has changed nothing. I feel like he still has his hold on the house. As we've talked about, there is a sliver of a chance of him going home during the double eviction. And because of that, I feel like he's going to be here till the end. No one's currently planning on taking him out. Everybody loves him. The only fly in the ointment is the fact that he may not have a slam dunk to win a jury vote. But I have faith in the jury that they'll ultimately award him the victory if he makes it to the final two. I'll just say this. I'm giving him a 10. But if he makes me look like a fool and takes Kaycee to the end when he could take Angela, I will just turn in my badge as far as being able to grade these people, because I have to believe he's so smart in this game. He has to realize that is not a good proposition for him, and get Angela is a guaranteed winner if there ever was one. She's such a goat. But I don't know. He may not know. Who knows?
All right, there you go. Another 10 from Brent. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
I feel similarly as last week. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point because I felt the same the week before, and then last week, and then this week. But I don't see the positions in the game moving that drastically for the majority of the people in the house. So I'm just going to stick with my 9.
All right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just noticed. I just found something. Okay, I'll tell you what I was laughing at. I just saw the EW comics on Twitter, and I'm laughing at the fact that I was like, who the hell is this Mr. Bad Wrench? Okay, I like, who the hell is that? It's Steve, because he was not a cop in the house, right? He was a mechanic. And so that's what he told the house guests. And so for his comic, they didn't even make him a cop. They made him a mechanic, which is hilarious to me. That his fake occupation is his comic. Yes. Oh, my God. That's too funny.
It's better than Mr. Stinky or whatever Austin's was.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so I'm pretty much on board with you guys as well. I don't think much has changed this week. I didn't expect much to change. He didn't lose Angela this week, which I think is a good thing for his game. However, he might lose Angela next week. I'm still not entirely sure what his thoughts are in terms of taking Kaycee or Angela to the final two, and he might lose Angela in this double eviction, and then if he loses Angela, maybe I think his choice becomes Kaycee or JC, and I think he's a little worried about taking JC, and maybe I don't even know if it's justifiable to be worried about JC. So I do think that losing Angela would be a big blow to Tyler's game. I don't think he's in a perfect spot, so I do have him at a 9 still. The audience, close vote here. The audience had him at an 8 last week.
Give him a 9.
They are at a 9. They have moved up to a 9 for Tyler, which I think this is going to be his highest overall rating, even though it's going to remain at a 9 with straight 9s and 1 10. There you go. All right, let's move on to JC. Melissa, Brent, and I all gave him 7s last week. The audience, much lower at a 5. So very interested to see if the audience remains low on JC's chances. Personally, I do think that, less than a second away from Bret winning that HOH, that would have been huge for JC.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about how last week he was on the precipice of, things could go really well for him. Things could go really poorly for him. And I feel like this is the start of things going poorly. If Bret had won that HOH, he would be in a very, very good spot. Bret did not win that HOH. That's Big Brother for you. And so now JC is in a spot where he could go home in this double eviction. I don't think it's particularly likely, but it is possible. And so that's not great for him. And then even if he doesn't, he still has a lot of things to contend with. That said, I think that he's in a better spot than even he knows himself. I think that I do think that Tyler would protect him over Bret. I think Tyler would want to take the shot at Bret first, and then I think Tyler would want to take the shot at Sam first. I think that Tyler thinks that JC is easier to beat in the jury than Sam is, which means that I do think JC at least has a free ride to the final 4 as far as Tyler is concerned, and I'm still not sure what Tyler's doing in terms of Angela. I know his previous plan was to take JC and Kaycee to the final 3. He's talked to JC about that plan, so I think he's in a halfway decent spot. I don't think it's gone too far downhill, but I don't think it's quite a 7 anymore. This could have gone up, it could have gone down. For me, it's gone down to a 6. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. He's gone down to 6 for me as well. I felt you're right. I felt like he had the opportunity this week to possibly go on an upwards trajectory with his game, and instead, currently, he's about in the same position, but that would have been huge for him. And now I think that going into the double eviction, I'm a little worried for him. And even after the double eviction, I'm worried for him. So I feel like this could have been a big week for him, and yet it wasn't. And even though it doesn't seem like much has changed right now, I think it really could soon. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think last week when we made these stock numbers, whatever, when we made these picks, I was thinking in terms of this could be really big for him and Bret, and I think him and Bret are thinking about the right thing to do, and then it didn't happen. So, yeah, unfortunately, JC's rating has gone down for me.
Yeah, it has gone down for me as well. Actually, I gave him a 4, and maybe I'm a little low on him because I do think there is a chance he could win the game. But I have to believe if he gets to the end of the game that the jury's not going to take him seriously, that there's no way they're going to vote for him at the end of the game. He's gotten into fights with people. I don't think there are many people out there that respect him. You have to be either liked or respected in order to win, and I don't think he's respected or liked by many people who are currently on the jury right now, or who will be on the jury, because L6 knows, even though he did stuff for us, if it's going to be him against an L6 member in the final 2, if it's anybody, and they're going to vote for the L6 member, I would think. So I don't feel great about his chances ultimately getting to the end. I am heartened a little bit by his potential to get to the end, considering that if Tyler is being true to what he says and he wants to take JC and Kaycee to the end, JC is definitely capable of fluking his way into the final 2 by winning a endurance competition in part 1 and the Scales of Just Us in part 3, where it's a total crapshoot. So that would be his path. But Tyler seems to want to take Kaycee to the end. And, so basically what I'm saying is if JC gets there, he's going to have to take himself, and I don't think that's particularly likely. Combined with the fact that I don't think the jury will vote for him much is the reason I'm giving him a 4.
Yes, I do feel like JC is somebody that you can point to. Like, he has done things that you can say actively bad jury management here, between not owning his game in the goodbye messages, between really trash talking the jury members to other house guests who can certainly run that back to them once they're voted out, I guarantee you, Scottie is he's learned, JC is the one that stabbed you in the back. Haley's gonna come in and be like, JC, Fessy, don't buy what JC was selling, that he was the one that tricked you into doing this, and was going behind your back about all this, and Fessy could be upset. We know that Bayleigh doesn't like him. We know that Rockstar wasn't particularly fond of him, although that might be a vote that he has. So he's definitely done some bad things in terms of jury management. However, he's been such a non-entity in terms of what people care about that he still could maybe win based on a bitter jury, but who knows? It's again very up in the air at this point in terms of JC. The audience was surprisingly low on JC last week. Same spot this week. 5 for JC. I think that's a little more in line with what we might expect there for this week at the very least. I do think if Bret had won that HOH, the audience would be regretting that 5 last week, but turns out they were on the right side of history. So there we go, a 5 for JC from the audience. I think that's gonna land him at $5 there. Yes, there we go. So $5 for JC, gone down from a 7. Next up is Bret, our final person of the night here. He got straight 7s last week. Melissa, where are you on Bret?
Once again, it's like if he had won HOH, things would be so different right now, but he didn't. So, yeah. I'm a little nervous for him with the double eviction. I don't know if anything's going to come of it, but I do think that if it comes down to a situation where Bret is on the chopping block, I could see a situation where Tyler's like, we need to take the shot now. I just think that, especially with a double eviction where it's like you don't have to wait a whole week with that person on the block and explain things to them. They can just go right out the door. I could see that being a situation where Tyler's like, let's take the shot because I know I have to get him out eventually, and I'd rather not have to deal with the fallout. So I'm a little nervous. I hope he doesn't end up on the block because then I think that there's a chance he could go, and I don't want that. So I don't feel as good about his chances this week as I did last week. So I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah, actually, I have him at a 6 as well, for many of the same reasons. I have gone down because I do feel like there is a chance he leaves during the double eviction. I don't think that he gets put up right away. I think that Tyler is probably smart enough, if he wants to take a shot at Bret, that he probably puts Sam and JC on the block and allows the veto to play out. Once the veto is determined, as long as anybody but Bret wins the power of veto, he can backdoor him if he convince Kaycee and Angela to go along. So I don't think he'll show his hand before he needs to, and once he shows his hand, it'll be too late for Bret to do anything about it. So that's why I rated him at a 6.
All right. I'm a little lower here on
even
Bret.
lower than a 6. Okay.
Yeah, because I do think that there's I think he might be the second most likely person to leave in the double eviction. Granted, I do think he has a decent shot at both winning the HOH and the veto, which probably, if we're looking at, because I'm looking at just straight odds of like anybody can win, but I think Bret has a good leg up on most people. So I think maybe that would drop him from second most likely to like third or even fourth most likely, just because I think he might end up being safe. That said, I think things are not looking great for him from this point on. I think that Tyler he's got him in his sights. He wants to make sure Bret doesn't get close to the end, I think. So that's very risky for him. Just getting to the end, I think, is a problem. I do think that he has been doing some good work in terms of jury management. However, that good work is to counteract the really bad work that he was doing previously. It still could go either way in terms of whether or not the jury wants to reward him. So I'm really, I even considered a 4 here for Bret, but I do think he is in a better spot than Angela, but not quite as good a spot as JC at the moment. So I have him right in the middle, right there at a 5, which is kind of fitting because that's where he started, right dab in the middle, the average player who grew to learn the game and then, back down to the 5.
I will say, for what it's worth, I don't think that he will go home during the double eviction. I think that Tyler will stay true to the level 6 side of things and keep him around. I think Sam is the most likely to go home during a Tyler HOH, believe it or not. That's what I think. And then once they're at 5 and they hit the money, then I think that at 5 is when Bret will go. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
I do think it would be a mistake to let Bret stay until 5. I mean, certainly until 4, but even until 5, I think it's a risky proposition. People can win out from the final 5 on. That's a possibility. And it's a very real possibility for somebody who is probably the most studied person in the house in terms of days, who is also very good at physical competitions, who is not too shabby at puzzles, and he's got good ball balancing skills. So you got to watch out for him in terms of these competitions. So if I were Tyler, I'd be taking the shot definitely at the double eviction, certainly after the double eviction. But you never know. He hasn't really been able to find support for that move. I think Angela would support it, but Kaycee definitely not really on board at this point. So that may hold him back. You never know.
Yep.
The audience agrees with you guys. The audience gave Bret a 6 this week, down from a 7 last week. So overall, Bret not getting that HOH has made his score go down a bit here. Not looking the best for Bret. This is a downward trend, but you never know. Things could pick up. If he or JC wins in the double eviction and they manage to send out somebody like Angela, although really they should be sending out Kaycee, then then they might have some legs to stand on there. But even then, it's like, what happens if Bret wins and then sends Angela home? Like, what happens then? Tyler or Kaycee win the next, and then they have a reason to evict him. Like, it's kind of a tough spot that he's in here. So there you go, $6 at the end of this for Bret. All right, it's time to start buying. Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
Who
All
goes
right,
first
Brent,
today?
who
I
is-
messed
who
up
is
the order
first?
last time.
Oh,
Sorry.
wait. Sorry. Let me bring up the. I'm waiting for the prices to adjust here. What the hell, man?
They should be adjusted.
I know. No, it's not that. It's my. Oh, there. It was blurry for some reason, so I could not see what was going on. There we go. Now I can see it. So currently, you, Taran, are in the lead in terms of Kaycee and Tyler stock, and I have $15 to spend, and I'm looking. Tyler is $9. And Kaycee is $8. So I cannot take the lead in either one of those unless I sell something. What do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. I think I should probably. I don't. I'm torn because I have an opportunity to potentially tie Melissa with some Angela stock, but I really don't think she has a shot to win. So I don't want to like. I think I should probably do some groundwork on. I think Kaycee is going to be the winner this season, and so I'm going to buy a Kaycee stock for $8. I am trying to see whether or not there's anything I can do to get that extra dollar, because I have $15 and Kaycee's at $8, so I can't buy 2 Kaycee stocks. I could sell a Bret stock and then be in a tie with Melissa, but I don't know what she's gonna do. So I'm just gonna leave things as they are right now and keep that $7 for next week.
All right. I'm assuming it's me next.
Yes. Sorry.
All right. Okay. So looking at this board, I have gone all in here on Kaycee and Tyler. I want to keep my options open as much as possible because they are both at quite a high price at the moment. But I do have to buy somebody. So let's go ahead and buy a. I'll buy a Kaycee. Try and keep that lead up. Spend as little as I can here. And I think that's all I'll do this week.
Okay. Melissa, what do you want to do?
I think I'm gonna do not what the chat is telling me to do. I feel like I want to go with my gut and
before you announce what you're gonna do, you could give Bret to me and gain back. What would that be, like $12, which you can go over $20 in the session as long as you're under 10 by the end of it. So you could do that if you wanted to. But
yeah, it looks like I currently have $18. Is that
you
like I
have
have $18.
Brent trying to negotiate right before the buzzer.
I want to. I'm gonna buy 2 Brets.
Oh, betrayal!
Okay. Betrayal.
I was gonna do it anyway. It just
you're gonna do it anyway.
But I'm just gonna do it because I don't see myself getting enough Kaycee or Tyler. So.
Well, you could have if you sold your Bret stock, and you'd have $30, and you could have gone into the lead with Tyler all by himself, or tied Taran with Kaycee stock.
I just feel like I don't want to keep competing for these people that are going to be the main people to compete for. I want to go for the outlier who might win.
Okay,
right,
well, you can be happy with the Bret win if he ends up winning then.
Yeah.
So Melissa is going to take the lead in Bret stock.
So I now have no lead in anything. That's wonderful.
4 shares to 3 against Brent's 3. I'm going to retain the lead in Kaycee. 6 shares to Brent's 4 and Melissa's 3. And I also retain the lead in Tyler. 5 shares to Brent and Melissa. They both have 3. Melissa has
How did this happen?
Oh, I think I'm going to sell 1 Angela.
Oh,
I want
there
to
we
keep
go.
1, but I want to sell 1.
All right,
Because
so
if she goes out in this double eviction and I lose all of that, at least now I'll just lose 1.
there you
Yeah,
go.
that's
Okay.
definitely a smart play.
Going
Yeah.
to try and Melissa's going to sell an Angela for $3 there. So Melissa has a lead in Angela at 1 share to none, and she also has a lead in JC, 1 share to none, and that's it. So Melissa looking not bad. She's got the most diversified profile here.
I feel like I've done this every time though, and it's never worked out for me. I've always been like, I'm diversifying my portfolio, and then it's
Well,
like,
your
oh,
draft
wait, now I
looks
just
really
lose
good.
everything.
Your
Yeah.
draft.
Yeah, my draft's not so bad.
Yeah, and who was it that we talked you into taking? I can't remember at number 4. Who was it again? I can't remember who that was. I know that you were complaining about it. You were like, I don't even want to take this
Angela.
person.
I took
Yeah.
Angela at 4.
Okay, yeah.
All right. As of right now, no shares owned of Haleigh or Sam. So with Haleigh likely leaving on Thursday, and any other person could theoretically leave here, we could see a massive shift here in stock. If Kaycee left, that would be a massive loss in owned shares. So. Very risky business here on the eve of the double eviction. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Alexandra, who everybody should be thanking because she is wonderful in terms of she has put all this whole chart together. She runs it all on the back end while we talk. She's very wonderful. She says no shares have ever been owned of Sam. Nobody's ever bought a single share of Sam stock.
I'm a little surprised. You'd think maybe week 1 people would be like, oh, I could see it, but.
I thought I'd bought Sam stock at one point, but apparently not. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you had too.
It seems like the kind of share that I would have bought early on, but
Yeah.
guess not. I think I went with Kaitlyn instead. All right, so there is the stock watch. That is it for the week. We do have some other bonus questions to talk about in regards to the form that I sent out on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. First of all, got another rating of how would you rate this season so far. So far the season ratings have been it went as high as I think 9.4 maybe during I think that was the high point during Fessy's HOH when he put up Scottie. That was the peak of the season, and then since then it has been rapidly deteriorating in terms of these decimal points. I think last week it was something like 8.8 or 8.7. This week an 8.6. So it is dropping the approval rating of this season.
But these are the boring weeks, so I feel like
true.
If it's still in the 8th, it's still in the high range. I feel like that's really not bad. Honestly, I think if we were asking this question last season, we would be getting like ratings of 2.
Yeah.
So I think this is really good in comparison.
Yes, I agree, and I think that basically if the season continues on the way that it has been, and maybe we get an exciting double eviction, but for the most part it just kind of fades down to Tyler and Kaycee, and then Tyler wins, or even maybe Kaycee wins, and I could see this dropping down to like an 8. I think that's probably the bottom of this drop, and I do think it could go back up if things start picking up again and it gets exciting. I think it could go back up to a 9. I think that's about where the season should be, an 8 or a 9. I think we got so much entertainment for so long. We often forget. Like, I don't think there's been a single season where there haven't been at least a couple weeks of downtime here or there. This was a little bit more manufactured than normal. Like, we can really blame production for this in terms of these twists that they did not need, that definitely were a major cause of the downtime. But it's still a pretty natural event, especially on a longer season. So, it's the way things go.
I was just thinking back to I have no idea how during Big Brother All Stars, I'm I don't think there was ever a dull week then. I'm like, maybe there was at the time and I just don't remember it. But my God, that was an amazing season. And you like, again, why don't you do an all-star season? Maybe now that Moonves is out, maybe there's a chance that the cast might look a little different going forward since he always had ultimate veto power. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe, but we can always hope.
All-Stars was one of those seasons where we got lucky every single competition in terms of the outcome. It was just perfectly laid there, and that's what was happening with this season too. Before the twist came and kind of messed with, because even take out the hacker and the competitions were still laying out perfectly. But they introduced the hacker and that kind of screwed things up, and then so on and so forth. But I do think Big Brother 7 definitely one of those that one of the few that didn't have much downtime, and 10 I think didn't have much downtime, but those are like the top of the most elite seasons. Even 14 had a few down weeks. It's really the more modern seasons that it's hard to avoid when they're so long, plus twists. It's really gonna be tough. All right, so I also asked, who is your favorite player? Tyler, remaining the heavy favorite here. He's lost a few percentage points. He's usually hovering around 50%. He's down to about 47, a little lower, 46.6. So it's dropping a little bit. And Bret is really picking up steam here. He had 27% of the vote in second place, going up from 24 last week. So Bret continues to be on the rise in the favorite player rankings, Melissa.
Yeah, I totally believe it. I saw, an upwards trajectory for him from near the beginning, when all of a sudden it was like the tides had turned and people didn't think of him as a douche bro anymore, and they were like, this guy's actually pretty fun and this guy's charming and funny. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins America's favorite. I feel like there's kind of an upswing, I guess, considering how it goes moving forward. You never know, but I do really think that he has a chance.
Yeah. Kaycee is going to take over third place from Haleigh, and actually Haleigh and Scottie were both there, but Scottie is now gone, of course. So Kaycee actually doubled her previous percentage. She was at about 4% this week, at about 8%. So Kaycee a little bit on the rise here. Haleigh just below her at just under 8% in fourth place. Then we have Angela with 5%. Not doing too shabby. Just increased a little bit. And then Sam at about 2.4%, JC at about 2.7%. So Sam is going to be the lowest, followed, just above her is JC. So there you go. Favorite players. Pretty interesting. We've also I also added another question here. The America's favorite player question, because this is open to anyone that was on the season, including those who make it to final two. That is very important to point out. Nobody is ineligible for this award. So very, very possible that if Tyler or Kaycee get there, they can still win it. So we don't even need a separate question in terms of that, but we do need a separate question in terms of needing all of the players to be there. For this one, Tyler remains in the lead here. A little bit less, though. Just over 40% here for the Tyler America's Favorite Player option, with Bret once again in second place with 26% of the vote. So he also loses a little bit, but not as much. And then it's actually a close race here between Haleigh and Kaitlyn. Haleigh with about 10%, Kaitlyn with about close to 8%. And those are really the only big numbers here in terms of our poll for America's Favorite. I think this is likely not going to be super representative of the casual vote, but definitely it's something. But
I would not be opposed if Kaitlyn won America's Favorite. After she left, I was like, I'd vote for her.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that people would maybe still have her in their minds. I'm not sure if the casual fans still do, but or if they'd even vote for her, but I wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I know that she's busy tooling around Los Angeles with Rob and Taran right now. So, I seriously though, I will say this. I know what Allison Grodner said, and that the final two have a chance to win America's Favorite Player. I will say that if Tyler's in the final two, I don't expect him to get America's Favorite Player, even if he's voted for it. That's a prize that they can just give to anybody. It's a producer's discretion about what votes are going to count and whatnot. So I would expect Bret, if he's second place, to get the nod for America's Favorite Player. But we'll see.
I think if Tyler loses the jury vote, he gets it 100%. Same thing.
Oh yeah, well
that's
to
Ross.
I meant if he wins. I'm sorry. If he won the game, I don't think he gets it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly possible. Although I think second place might. Again, I think JC is in there for the casual vote. I really, really do.
Really? Okay.
I think he has been like any casual fan of the show that I've talked to about this season is like JC is so funny. He's the most distinctive.
Freaking
he's
casuals.
Really been on the show a
know.
lot. I could easily see, Tyler, Bret, and Haleigh like splitting the vote between themselves in terms of the like hardcore fan base, and then the casuals just going all in on JC and maybe stealing a win there. I'd watch out for it. People were wondering who had the least amount of votes.
That would be apropos for JC winning. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's such a fan of Trump. Trump got the Republican nomination because there were all these people who were splitting the votes, and he won with the plurality. So that would be so great for JC to win, like his idol. Anyway, moving on.
I am pretty sure here that Fessy has 0 votes. So Fessy would be in last place. I believe Bayleigh is second to last here with 3 votes, and then I think Rachel with 4, and then Rockstar with 6, and Swaggy with 7, Steve, good showing with 9, Angela has 12, Sam has 17. So it's really everything is, even Kaycee is pretty low. Everything is concentrated in either Kaitlyn, Haleigh, Bret, or Tyler in terms of these votes. Tyler, just a massive lead in terms of this audience's favorite or America's favorite choice. I asked, who do you want to be evicted this week? And I think this is the 3rd week in a row where it's Haleigh. No, it might have been Fessy. I think it was Haleigh.
Was it Haleigh? Really?
I think it might have been.
We were mad at her for betraying Scottie, so maybe that's it. Yeah,
it's possible. So finally, the audience might get its wish here. Haleigh will probably be leaving. Continuing to track this. At this point in time, would you consider the Faute jury members to be unjustifiably bitter if they gave the win to Kaycee over Tyler? I think this is the situation that we might end up with this season, so it would be interesting to get a track of the opinion on this. And the great Christina Z on Twitter, who has been doing lots of analysis on these stats, has come up with some really great points of analysis for this question in particular in terms of your favorite player and all of that. Turns out the Haleigh fans, who Haleigh was their favorite player the last couple of weeks, they were a fan of the Battle Back the first week, and then flipped their opinion the second week, which was very reminiscent of what happened with the hacker twist. So maybe someday we'll learn to dislike twists from the get-go. Maybe.
Well, I generally dislike them, although they tend to bother me less. But that was the last bit of enjoyment I had was when Haleigh put Tyler on the block, and then I had to suffer through 4 weeks of boredom. So it wasn't worth it, Taran. It wasn't worth it.
Yes. So about the same percentage here. About I think maybe the no's have lost about 2%. It's about 73% to 27%. Say that yes. It would be wait, hold on. It would be unjustifiably bitter. And then the follow-up, would you consider the Faute jury members unjustifiably bitter? Sorry, wrong emphasis on the wrong word. Would you consider the Faute jury members to be unjustifiably bitter if they gave the win to Sam over Tyler, as this is also a potential thing that could happen that Haleigh was talking about yesterday in the house, that she would love to see Sam win over these people, and overwhelmingly, yes, people would find that unjustifiably bitter, unsurprisingly. But hopefully we'll get some interesting additional statistics from those questions. Final thing to talk about here, who Scottie is likely to vote for in the final two. Obviously, Haleigh is up there as the number one person. The audience then thought Tyler was the second most likely person that Scottie would vote for in the final two. Just barely edging out Bret. They feel like it's a very close call between Bret and Tyler. Melissa, what do you think about this call for the number two spot?
For number two, for what? Sorry.
For Scottie's jury vote.
For who? Yeah, for Scottie's jury vote. Would he vote for would he vote for Tyler more likely than Bret, or Bret more likely than Tyler?
That's so tough, because I would say that he would vote for Tyler, but I really don't know with Scottie. I just feel like it's going to come down to whether he calms down and kind of is able to see the whole game in a bigger picture. And if he's able to, say game recognized game, we weren't working together, he played me, whatever. Or if he's going to be like, Tyler's the reason I'm here, Tyler's the reason I got out, I trusted him, I'm going to vote for Bret. So it's tough to say. I was going to say Tyler, and then I was going to say Bret halfway through my sentence.
Well, you do like the audience, because the audience is very close in terms of what they wanted to have happen. I am firm in my belief that Scottie, as much as I do like him, with all respect to him, is a bit of a wuss. I think he's a follower. I think he's going to do exactly what the girls in the jury tell him to do. And I don't think that they're generally going to want to vote for Tyler over Bret. I think they would be more likely to vote for Bret over Tyler, the women on the jury I'm talking about. So I think he would be most likely to vote for Bret and then Tyler. But I can see why it's close, though.
Yeah, I think if Haleigh came in and was like, Bret has been good to us, like, we're voting for Bret. He was an underdog. He didn't have that sort of alliance to back him up, even though he did. I could see that Scottie doing what Haleigh says.
Okay, I am getting a correction. Thank you, Christina, who does point out Fessy was the preferred choice to see go home on week 9. So I think it's only been the last 2 weeks that that people would have preferred to see Haleigh go. So the audience says Haleigh first, then Tyler, then Bret. I do agree. I think it's probably Bret, then Tyler, though I don't see it as particularly likely that they will be there anyway. Then it is Kaycee, which I'm not sure I agree with based on his exit press. Then we've got Sam, then JC, then Angela. I kind of feel like the audience is a little off on this one. Brent, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how. Here's the thing. I'm not sure how vested his hate towards Kaycee is. Is it just something in the moment because he got evicted and he's mad about the fact that he was basically in and out in a week, which is everybody's nightmare when they come back into the house? Or is he a little bit more forgiving? I like to think he's going to be a little bit more forgiving, so I would probably agree that he would have Kaycee. And then as far as Angela and Sam go, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on this?
I didn't see him as that bitter toward Angela. I feel like Scottie's one of the few people that was like, Angela's fine. Like, okay. She's. He
never really had a relationship with her either, though. So
it's true.
I mean, that has something to do with it.
I think if he was not likely to vote for Angela, it would be more because he's going along with the crowd than he felt like actually bitter toward her. I think he was bitter toward JC. He definitely expressed some bitter thoughts toward Kaycee. He was definitely feeling a little embittered toward Tyler. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was against those three. But I also don't really see him voting for Sam. I don't know. I don't see that as particularly like. I think Sam is probably the least likely person to receive his vote. Then JC, then Kaycee, then Angela, Tyler, Bret, and then Haleigh most likely. That's probably my ranking there. But I do feel like he's one of the more likely jurors to vote based on his own opinions rather than somebody else's. I'll granted, as soon as Haleigh comes in there, she's definitely going to have a decent amount of influence. So yeah, I don't know. I think Haleigh is only going to reinforce his feelings for Bret in a positive way. I think that she may be somebody that makes him go against Angela. That's definitely a possibility. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. Hopefully we get some more information about the jury as we move forward, Melissa.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's good to talk about, but at the same time, it's so tough to say for sure which way a jury member is going to vote one way or the other, especially considering it. You have to think about how it comes down to it. Like, what's the next boot order? I mean, if we get a Sam out, then JC out, then we have most of the jury not having any clue about level 6. And then you have it gets way down to it and you get someone else voted out and they don't have as much time to talk with them about everything that happened. And I feel like the less time we have for people to share about level 6 and about what actually was going on, the more time they can get solidified in their own voting ways and be like, okay, now we have the clear picture of what's going on, even though they don't. And really, I'm nervous for Tyler in that sort of situation because, they don't see him as a person who is controlling the game or is intelligent enough to control the game. And so I'd be worried for him. So yeah, I feel like if things could change depending on the boot order, things could change depending on what's revealed during final questioning or, who's versus who in the finals. So, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I do think, though, that JC, they said they were going to sit JC down. I can't wait for this to happen and tell him about level 6 once it gets to the final 5 and give him the Brittany treatment. Like, haha, we're the brigade. So I'm curious to see if that has any impact on the jury. But the thing is that JC is unshakable in his belief that he controlled Tyler, that he controlled everything, that he was doing all the work. So I don't know that he would necessarily give them any credit, even if they do reveal this to him. So I don't know. Who knows?
Yes, just a point of interest here, looking at the some of the more likely final 2 scenarios. Right now, the audience is predicting that of the 4 votes in the jury house right now, if it was Tyler versus Kaycee, the current count is 2-2. That Scottie and Fessy would be votes for Tyler, and that Rockstar and Bayleigh would be votes for Kaycee. If Tyler was sitting next to Sam, it would be 3-1, with Rockstar being a vote for Sam and the rest being a vote for Tyler. So with that in mind, is that a correct analysis? I have no idea, but interesting to track as we go, see how far off we all are.
We need to see we need to see if they block vote. That's what we need to see. Because obviously the first one read was 2-2 if it's Tyler versus Kaycee, but I don't really think it'll be 2-2. I think it'll be like 4-0 one way or the other. So hopefully not, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So there we go with all of the stock watch stuff.
By the way,
and the
I had a couple questions from people that Stacked sent me. One of them was just funny. She said, if Sam wins the double eviction HOH, can Julie steal "You Can and You Will" from Larissa? I like that one. And I'm sure that she might have to, actually, considering Sam's reticence to want to put anybody up, I guess, who's not named Haleigh, and she won't be there.
Mike wants to know in the chat right now, has anyone sent in an LFC theme song? And the answer is no.
Wow.
Go
no
to
one
hell,
cares
everybody.
about it.
What? Terrence's show was on for freaking, 48 hours, and he had 3 theme songs. And then we've been on for how long? We can't get you people
We get
to do anything.
nothing. No
To be
one
fair, I think the
likes
Taran
us.
show has higher numbers than this one, but it's, what are you gonna do?
That, yeah. That's true.
We should have dedicated fans here.
Yeah, what
on
the
the
heck?
LFC Roundtable.
That's right.
All right. So we also Mike Zahn also asked a question about the double eviction, wondering about this Bret scenario. If Tyler or Angela win the HOH on Thursday, assuming that they put up JC and Sam, if Bret were to win the veto, he could take JC off, and then they would control the votes and be able to get rid of the forced replacement nom. Do you think that Bret is smart enough to do this, knowing that it is his best move? Melissa, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if Bret's... I don't really have that much faith in Bret. I feel like he says some things where I'm like, okay, he's got it. He understands what's going on. And then he says some things where I don't think he has it. And I don't have the confidence in him. I would hope that he would know what to do when the moment comes, but I just don't. I don't know if I see it. And that's same with JC as well. Like, those are both 2 people who I think could make big moves, and I don't know if they will.
I don't know. Even here's the thing. I'm at home in the comfort of my own bed, and I'm not even thinking about that. I was thinking about it from the other direction. If Bret wins HOH and puts Angela and Kaycee on the block, if Tyler wins the veto, that he can undo what Bret's trying to do by vetoing one of them and forcing him to put up either JC or Sam. I didn't even think about it from the other direction, that if they don't win HOH, they can still get their way and be eligible to play for HOH the following week. That would actually be the best thing to happen to Bret. If that happens, if Tyler's stupid enough to put up JC and Sam. But I'm not sure Tyler would do that, though.
Yeah, we're talking like Peter Brown levels of missed opportunity if Bret wins that veto and he's not on the block and he doesn't use it. Because that would be so huge.
I'm not sure he would recognize what would happen. I mean, because it takes place so fast. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure he would recognize, okay, if I pull down JC, then here are the only 2 replacement nominees, and we control the votes. Like, I'm not sure he would get that. Mm-hmm. I'm not, and he may. He's a smart guy. I know he's been thinking a lot about a lot of stuff, but he's not a fan of Big Brother, and it's very wonky at 6 and 5 as far as the veto holder gains more and more power as things go along till the final 4 when they have ultimate powers. So I don't know if he would realize that or not. I'm hoping he might be able to figure it out, though.
It would be a huge coup because
that would
not
be
only
great.
would he be able to likely take out because that could also it could force Kaycee out, if Angela's the HOH, she's forced to put up Kaycee. Bret and JC decide let's take Kaycee out, and that would be better for their games anyway. Kaycee is I think a bigger threat in competitions. She's also Tyler's first choice to take to the end. That could inadvertently make them make the right decision between Angela and Kaycee for who to take out. Then they're both eligible to compete in the next HOH competition, whereas Angela or Tyler would not be. So, man, it would be really, really big for them. It could really reverse this current HOH loss. But you're right. I don't know if he'll have the presence of mind to think of doing it in the moment. Which we saw Bruno on Big Brother Canada 3, really know, be able to make a snap call. I'm going to use the veto. You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready to do this.
Yeah, that's the thing is you would hope that they would recognize, hey, what would happen if this happened? Oh, whoa, we would have the votes in this scenario. But I don't know if they would, because if you think about it, in Big Brother Canada recently, when Kayla and Derek, I guess, they thought, okay, we're in the finals, we've got this. And then they didn't even realize that if Will had won the veto,
right,
then they could have gotten Derek out. They didn't even think of that until Maddie brought it up. So, and those guys, at least Kayla, I felt like was a savvy player. And if she wasn't even recognizing it, then I don't know if Bret or JC would think about that, especially not in the moment of a double eviction.
Well, I will say that Jack brings up in the chat that, first of all, it's always different than Canada because they always go to a commercial break. They have the veto winner and then they go to a commercial break. And you can always hear them talking because they always show it on the next episode when they're catching you up on what happened during the commercial breaks of the double eviction. There would be about a good 5-7 minutes there. And JC, I have to think JC's smart enough to go to Bret and say, look, hey, use the veto on me, pull me off the block. We'll both be safe. And then,
but I
we'll
think
be
Bret might be like, I can't do that to level 6 because that means a level 6 person goes on the block, and then they'll be suspicious.
It's the same as winning HOH and putting them up, and he's ready to do that. So.
But I think that it's a situation where it's like, if he's not the HOH, I feel like he's going to be like, all right, well, it's out of my hands. I can't make the move this week. I don't think he's going to still be thinking like, how can I figure this out and get it, to happen.
If that happens, then we can rightly castigate him for it. So
I do think I think it's possible that JC bails him out. I do think JC would think of it.
Okay.
Because as soon as JC touches the block, he's going to be thinking like, how do I get out of this? He's going to be thinking through every scenario, even if Bret is kind of like calm because at least I'm not on the block even though I lost. I think JC's gonna be thinking about it, and he will if he's able to get a moment with Bret, be like, you take me down, we control the votes, it has to be Angela or Kaycee on the block. And
I think he would do it then. Yeah, I think he would.
It's possible. So more double eviction questions here. Eric Santo wants to know if Bret or JC win the HOH and put Kaycee and Angela up, then Kaycee or Angela win the veto, who do we think they would nominate as the replacement? Would they go for Tyler, or would they end up nominating Sam? Do they have the guts to put Tyler on the block, even just as a pawn, knowing that he won't go home? Or is that the reason they wouldn't put him up? Because they knew he wouldn't go home and they wouldn't want to make him angry. When it comes down to it, Brent, what do you think they will decide?
Oh, this is like my nightmare scenario. Well, actually, my real nightmare scenario is Tyler winning the veto. I don't even want to think about it. That they would screw this up. That they would go for the gusto and then basically retreat and put Sam up on the block. And and I'll say this though, I can even see Tyler seeing what's happening in front of him, them winning the veto, going to Bret during the double eviction commercial and say, hey, don't put me up, put up Sam, we'll vote out Kaycee, I get it, she needs to go home, lying to him basically, and then sending Bret home the next week because he betrayed them. So it's sort of daunting to me, or dawning on me now, and it's daunting to me how much of an inside straight we really need to draw for this to happen. Like, they basically need to win the HOH and the veto because Sam ain't gonna win it. So it needs to be Bret. I think it needs to be Bret winning the HOH and the veto, basically. Oh my God, this looks worse and worse and worse. Oh my God, he'd be better off losing HOH and just winning the veto. That's what he would be better. Well,
that's if Tyler or Angela make the mistake of not putting him on the block, which they should, because they should be taking a shot at him. So we might not even have that chance to be left off the block. Which again, they really shouldn't give him that chance, but you never know.
I feel like I'm calling my shot now. I do not think that Tyler and Angela put him up initially. I just think there's no way they do that with a veto up and that he could feel betrayed by them. They're going to let the veto play out. They're going to assume wrongly that he would not use the veto on JC. And then
he turns around and stabs him in the back. That would be beautiful.
Very exciting.
That would be beautiful. We can only hope, Taran.
Yes. All right.
We deserve it after these 4 weeks, I tell you.
Yes. Another one from Eric, who wants to know, who do we think is more likely to cut Tyler at the end, Kaycee or Angela? Let's assume they're in the final 3 and one of these 2 women wins the HOH. Who is more likely to go, you know what?
None. Neither of them.
We have to take the shot because what Eric pointed out was that we have heard that Angela at one point in time was in the diary room talking about potentially cutting Tyler. That was a long time ago, so I don't know how true it is anymore.
Yeah, that was pre-Hilton Head. Let me just tell you.
Okay. So. And on the other hand, as Brent pointed out, Kaycee could maybe wake up from her Cody coma and realize that taking Angela is a sure thing. So which do we think is more likely here, or is it so unlikely that it's not even worth talking about?
I think Angela is the person. I think she's hungry, and I think she wants the money, and I think. But the thing is, I don't even know if evicting Tyler is better for her at this point than keeping Kaycee. I think that it used to be true that she should evict Tyler and keep Kaycee, but now I don't know if that's true. I think actually her better chance is to take Tyler to the end and act like she controls everything, because that's what they think anyway. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I would say neither, and then if I had to pick one, I'd think Angela would do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Angela is more likely, and I do think she. I mean, if you think about it, I think that she probably has a better chance against Kaycee, because basically the only way Angela wins is if the jury says, we're putting aside our bitter feelings and we're going to look at who played the better game, because they think that she's played really well, but they're really bitter toward her. And if they do that, then they still might vote for Tyler over her. However, with Kaycee, I think in that situation she would win, especially if, certainly Tyler would not have much of a chance to do anything to persuade the jury. But if it's anything like a BB celeb, maybe he'll have some small measure of influence, at which point, does he then influence them to pick Angela over Kaycee if she just cut him? I don't know. But not going to happen anyway, so not worth talking about anymore. Tom Palmer wants to know, the old adage is that you can't win Big Brother in the first week, and yet Nicole, Paul, and Tyler all set themselves up for success in week 1 of their seasons. Is week 1 more important in modern Big Brother than in past years? Interesting question. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it does seem that way. I feel like in the past few seasons, we've seen that more and more, that the first week you want to be in power in some sort of way. And then if you're in power, you're able to create, or you're brought into these powerful alliances or whatever. And before that, I always had said, don't win the first HOH. Don't get too much power. But I think that at this point, it's kind of looking like winning the first HOH is beneficial to you because you get pulled into those alliance discussions and because people want to talk to you that first week. Whereas if you're not HOH, no one possibly cares about you, and you could kind of just fly under the radar and no one really will invite you into these discussions. So yeah.
I agree. I think it's a good thing to do, and I don't think that it's outdated, as some people in the chat are saying that it's an outdated adage. I think that being HOH, it just really sets the table for you. You get a lot of people coming to talk to you, as Melissa said. You have a sense of where the house is, and you just can't argue with stats. There's so many people who have been first HOH who went really deep in the game or won the game. And the people that went out early, like Cody, would have had it made if they didn't decide to blindside their own alliance and try to take a shot at the most powerful player in the game right off the bat. So, if think of that universe where he doesn't put Tyler or Cody doesn't put Paul and Christmas on the block, or doesn't try to put Paul and ultimately puts Christmas on the block. If he just goes along with what his alliance wanted him to do, Paul doesn't take a shot at Cody for as quickly as he did. There's just no way. If you set yourself up well, you talk to your alliance, you get a group of people behind you, I think it can serve you well.
Yeah, I think the brigade changed everything. I think up until season 12, there was not a single season where the ending alliance was the same as the starting alliance. There were always alliances, but they got toppled, and then new alliances were formed as the season went, and those usually were the ones that made it to the end. But with the brigade, they made an alliance week 1, made that, and it lasted the entire season. Then in season 13, you had the vets who, they certainly broke apart eventually, but the basic structure remained for a while. Then in 14, that was a mess all over the place. That was not a good example. Then 15, we saw a group form in the beginning that was quickly toppled, and then the new group was the group that kind of lasted for a while until Andy broke that up and formed his own thing. Then we had 16, which obviously right from the beginning made the bomb squad rode that to the end for the most part. Detonators kind of formed off of that. 17, there was a group that formed and was quickly toppled, and then the new group formed by Vanessa rode it for a little while until that was toppled, and then she kind of snuck her way into the end.
Yep.
So it really is, it's a case of like, these big alliances can form early, and then sometimes they're toppled, sometimes they're not, but if you're not part of it, you're usually not gonna have much of a shot, or if you're not part of toppling it. And so, and then most importantly, these last 3 seasons, as Tom mentioned, Nicole, she sets herself up the whole way down to the end of the game, basically. Paul then is going to do a similar thing with his HOH, and then again, same with Tyler. So it's definitely something to look out for. This first HOH, especially in the modern game where it seems to be longer, that seems to be amplifying the effect. And then also the fact that the first week is 2 weeks long. I think that has an impact as well. So definitely something to look out for. You'd better be playing hard in the first week. Not so hard that you're like all over the place and people think you're super sketchy. But if you're not included in any groups, you're probably in trouble in that first week, because you're not likely to get included in any of those groups in the future unless something dramatic happens, and you don't want to be waiting on the sidelines for that to happen. So just something to think about if you ever play Big Brother.
I was just going to say really quickly that, just thinking about it, your chances of winning the game or not winning the game, being a part of a great alliance, and, talked about to the end of time, because, the level 6 is already talking about, we're one of the greatest alliances in history. People are going to talk about us. But the people that are within level 6, besides Tyler, they're not all that smart. I mean, the first week they needed Tyler to change the numbers for them and get Kaitlyn to vote the right way. Tyler has all but told him, "I have a superpower. Make sure I'm backdoored, and we'll be okay." And still, they do not know that he had the power app. It just driving me crazy. And then you fast forward to this week, and Kaycee's still believing against all odds that Bret would never betray them, even though Tyler's dropped 1,000 hints to her. So she's basically a dumbass who kind of wandered her way into the right alliance and has a pretty good social game. But she ain't a great Big Brother player, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So there you go. A good question, Tom. Final question from Nikki, who wants to know, do you think Tyler even wants to win the HOH and the double eviction, or even afterward? Because after Haleigh leaves, he has a final 2 with everyone except for Angela, who obviously he's in a showmance with. So at that point, like, what do you even want to win? Does Tyler want to? Basically, the only point in winning is to protect Angela from getting evicted, and he doesn't. I'm not sure that he even wants to. I think maybe he wants somebody else to take a shot at Angela. Maybe not quite yet, but I don't know if he's willing to win the HOH to stop it from happening. Melissa, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's shocking, but it's kind of safest for him to not win it, because I think if he wins it, he's going to piss people off, because at this point he has final 2s with essentially everyone who's left after Haleigh leaves. And if he wins HOH, he's going to have to put 2 of the people that he has these final 2s with up on the block. And yeah, one person's going to leave, and okay. But really that's not okay, because they're going to the jury and they're probably going to be pissed off at him because he betrayed them. And then the person who stays in the house is also going to be pissed off at him because he betrayed them. And so then you have 2 people who's pissed off. And I think that if he lets someone else take the heat for it, like let someone else be HOH, and then kind of just says like, look, I'm going along with the house, there's nothing I can do, this is really like upsetting, then I think that, that's better for him. So yeah, if I'm Tyler this week, I truly trust in these final 2 deals, I probably wouldn't want to win HOH or the veto.
I mean, I know that he shouldn't want to win it, but I think he's not going to be able to help himself. And I think somebody like Tyler, here's the thing. Tyler knows that he's playing a great game, and Tyler knows that if these people were thinking with their heads on straight, they should want to get him out. I think that's always going to be in the back of his head. I think he's going to take any chance he can to win. And so, no, I do not think that he will throw this HOH. I think he'll, in fact, try to win it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you, Taran, the fact that and I know you didn't say it affirmatively, but the fact that he will maybe want somebody else to take the shot at Angela. I don't know if that holds true anymore. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, we talked about that on Sunday night about like, you know, I guess this is a good question to ask you because Melissa and I both discussed it with Paris about how like, do you think that Tyler, like, I know he's talked about cutting Angela, but do you think that he's willing to do it himself? Like, do you like if it's like a Final Four veto situation or a Final Three take somebody to the end? Like, do you think he's willing to look Angela in the face and say, I'm evicting you, or is it more of a thing where he's like he hopes that somebody else is going to do it for him?
I feel like he can do it, and I feel like he will always fall back on the fact that, hey, I made a promise to her on day 2. You know, we've been together. Me and Kaycee have been together since the beginning. I cannot evict her, therefore I have to evict you. Now, if it's JC and Angela on the block, that's a bit of a different horse of a different color. Although he could always fall back on the fact that he has the final 2 with JC, and he does not technically have one with Angela, even though they are in a showman's together. Look, they're not in a let me backtrack. They're not in a showman's per se, because they're not out in the open. They're in like a, you know, cuddle flirt man's in bed, and they're hiding from the other house guests. But there's no feelings that he can't get over in order to make the move that he needs to make. I'll put it like that. So I feel like he would do it. Do you? I missed that part.
He's been saying some pretty mushy things, about her.
Yeah, stray boys say that to women all the time.
Okay. All right. I did see. I see a tweet here. Angela 5 minutes ago said to Kaycee, "I have a weird feeling about JC and Bret. I don't know why. I don't know what it is." That
might give them more impetus to put up JC and Bret or Bret at least in the double eviction. Then
yeah.
I was going to say, I had a question. Stackton's been wanting to ask his question, so here we go. Sorry, Stackton, I'm not trying to roll my eyes at you, but from Taylor, from Taylor, who I know, right? From Taylor, who I put in detention, so I'll ask his question for him. I think he might be out by now. Do you think Sam's last DR makes production worried for the house guest safety if and when she's ultimately evicted, Taran?
Are we concerned for their safety? No.
Do we think production is concerned for their safety?
I doubt it. I mean,
yeah, I didn't think so either. I thought that's just Sam being Sam in the diary room. Like if she's ultimately evicted during the double eviction, I think she goes out like a mouse. I think she just walks out. Yeah.
If we're being honest, I think production prompted her to say that. I think that like this is the character that they want her to portray, and so they probably led her into saying those things.
Yeah. I think so too. What Stack? Tell me what Taylor. Stack apparently put Taylor in detention again, so he must be a bad boy. He was giving me shit, and I can only take I take it from Taran, Taylor. I do not take it from you. And I think that's all the questions. Stack was putting up one scenario where Stack thinks that Tyler has to be the one to put up Sam, quote, as a pawn and then play dumb about the votes. You know, that this is in the scenario where Tyler's going according to form and Sam is going to be the next one out. If Tyler wins HOH, he basically has to put Sam up and say, you're the pawn, and then kind of play dumb when she goes home. Act like Paul, basically. But I don't know that that's good in the moment. I mean, maybe he can fix it because they let you tape goodbye messages after the fact for the double eviction. Maybe he can fix it in the goodbye message that, hey, I knew you were going to go home. But I think either way she's going to be bitter if he puts her up. So
yeah, but if he puts up Sam and he puts up, well, yeah, JC. I guess he would. I was going to say, yeah.
Sam
if he puts
JC,
up JC, yeah, okay. But if maybe it's a situation where Kaycee is like, just put me up, like, I'm fine with that because she tends to do that for no reason at all. But if she does something like that and then he puts up Sam saying you're the pawn and Kaycee knows she's the pawn, but then JC and Bret have the opportunity, they might just take out Kaycee on Tyler's HOH.
Yeah.
Yes, Sam has basically told Tyler, like, whenever you want to take me out, that's fine. Just tell me. Don't lie to me about it. So honestly, I don't think that's true, but I think that it's his best shot is if he needs to be the person to do it, tell her ahead of time and tell her why. And there's at least a chance that she feels like she needs to stick to her word enough that she says, okay. So I would not try to trick Sam. I think she's hard to trick because she thinks you're tricking her when you're not tricking her. So if you are actually tricking her, it's gonna, like, even if you play it perfectly, she could still think you're tricking her. So I think the best that you can do is just be as honest as you can with Sam. I don't think there's another way.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. That's all the questions I got.
Yes. So, like I said, with this Angela, I do think since Angela, it's going to be Angela or Tyler. If Tyler wants to take the shot at Bret, I do think he can talk Angela into doing it. And then if Angela takes the shot, or if Tyler takes the shot, I think at that point, Kaycee would be forced to go along with it. I think she would back Angela or Tyler up, even though she was against it based on her own beliefs. So I do think there's a chance here that they take this shot at Bret. We'll just have to see. Just a couple more nights here until the double eviction. Very exciting stuff. Do we have an idea for a hashtag in the chat? Hashtag detention wouldn't be too bad. As that's all I'm seeing in the chat right now. Put those people in detention, Brent.
Detention is a 5-minute timeout for you to cool your jets when you're yelling at me too much. So, or if you're being bad. Actually, if you're bad, I just ban you. But but you can have a real opinion, Taylor.
Oh, we are getting questions about when the final 5 eviction is going to take place, because people are wondering if we will be down to 5 or 4 for the next roundtable. And
it's usually on Tuesday night, right?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Or actually, it would probably. You know what? It would probably be Wednesday. It would be a special eviction on Wednesday night because it's on Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday now.
It'd probably air, yeah.
Yeah, it would air. The eviction episode would. So the final 5 eviction episode would quote unquote surprise them, and Julie would surprise them, and they would be evicted and taped. And that's the one where we always get the spoilers about who won HOH. So that would be
feeds might go down Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah.
But we probably won't know for sure who's going home, but we'll probably have a good idea. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to based on the exact details. I'll come up with the correct rule there for the Stockwatch. I'm gonna. It depends on how closely the feeds go out and how sure we are of who's gonna leave, based on whether or not they're still tradable. All right. So, man, lots happening over the next week. We might be down 3 players by the next time we talk to you on the roundtable. So look out for that. Any final thoughts, Brent or Melissa?
Hoping it picks up. It's been a little boring, but I'm hoping for the best. By the way, I just wanted to tell you that I told my mom to watch. My mom loves tennis, right? But she hasn't watched in recent years because she doesn't know a lot of like the Ovas and all the European players and whatnot. So I had her watch the Serena Osaka match, and then it just totally went to shit. It was a total shit show. And I was like, so my mom's yelling at me. She's like, you told me to watch Big Brother 20, and it's got really boring. And then you had me watch the tennis match, and that was terrible. She's like, stop giving me advice about what to watch. So I'm really hoping that the double eviction gives us some excitement. I told mom, I'm like, the double eviction is where it's at. It's going to be fun. So I'm like, praying that anybody but Sam goes home during the double eviction so my mom can start to enjoy Big Brother. I'm trying to tell my mom, like, it's not normally a steamroll like this. Like, usually there is some resistance of some kind, but they just couldn't get their act together, Falte, Yeah.
All right. So make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will update you on everything that happened on the live feeds today. And, of course, tomorrow night, we will be live to recap the veto episode of Big Brother 20. And then Thursday night, double eviction time. We'll be there. We'll talk about it.
I will be there. I will be on RHAP on Thursday night. By the way, I don't know where these people are complaining about me on Twitter. Do you see them? Complaining about me not being around, that my balance is missed. Of course, I don't think I balanced the two of you at all. But I'm like, I come on just as much as everybody else. It's just
is this a humble complaint, Bragg?
Well, no, not really. I kind of am irritated with it because I love all you people out there, but I work just as much as Taran and Melissa. Well, I work just as much as Melissa. How's that?
Yeah, my biggest complaint that people have for me is that I'm way too negative this season, which, like, I don't understand. This is like the most positive I've been about a season in a long time, so I don't get it. That I feel like in Big Brother 19, it was like every week I was like pissed off about something. And Big Brother Canada, there was always something going on that I was like, why aren't they doing this? And now I feel like this is the first season where I'm like, this is a great season. I love it. But like, apparently I have to be so effusive every single week. And I can't go a single podcast without praising the season and without being told I'm way too negative. Whatever.
These people calling me negative, they're the worst. Why are they calling me negative? I'm not negative. I'm so positive right now.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, you know, there's so many people complaining about me too, and about like how great
How you're
I
in love
am,
with
and
Tyler.
how awesome the updates are, and how right I always am. It's so annoying. Yeah, I really feel for you, Brent.
People here are
really
not
feeling
going.
for it.
People are not going to know that you're joking, and they're going to be like, "Wow, Taran thinks that his stuff is so great."
Yeah, unfortunately. I am already getting tweets about like Taran, bitter juries have existed since way back when Big Brother started. Like, thank you, thanks.
Wow, Taran, you didn't know?
All right, so the American Ninja Warrior finale aired last night, and Lita and I recorded a podcast about it, so that will be out. We talk about being positive about something. I was definitely very positive about the American Ninja Warrior finale.
Can
Very
you give us a
positive.
hint as to, like, is that sarcasm, or were you...
Very sarcastic. Yeah, I complained the whole time.
Oh, wow. Well, I was going to complain about it too, but I don't want to spoil anybody who hasn't seen it. So, yeah, we can talk about it after the show. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you can, of course, find me on Twitch. You can find us all on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa.
Oh, right. That's a long
A's.
one.
3 A's.
I've never said that before.
You can tweet at us with the hashtag theme song
Yes.
for the LFC.
Yeah.
And there you go. So for Brent and Melissa, I'm Taran Armstrong. Hashtag theme song for the LFC.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you next time.